The perfect solution. There are solutions and there are problems. They ought to be separate, one from the other. That is the proposition that gave rise to a priori and apologetic. Apologetic is about hope, specifically the hope we as Christians have. Our hope is based on the perfection of our hope. We have a perfect hope based on a perfect faith. None of this is possible without the knowledge of a perfect solution to our problems that give us a perfect hope in the future. Faith is the pure essence of Christianity and cooperation its practical application. Cooperation, like faith, is an absolute. Cooperation is analytical and logical in that it is predicated on a purpose expressed as a first-order principle. Relativism leads to liberalism and a freedom without purpose or the possibility of a viable objective. This lack of objectivity results in an increase in insanity. There is no maturity without an objective correlate for cooperation. Relativity expressed as freedom leaves us with a sovereign creature with no guideposts other than its own impulses. Our level of cooperativity gives us the foundation for what is called meritocracy. There are several levels of cooperation. At the lowest level of cooperation, there is only the absence of competition, as was the case for the early settlers of America. The opportunities were so vast competition did not need to happen. One could just move elsewhere. At a slightly higher level, there is coordination and there is specialization without any synchronization between the specialists. This occurs when farmers raise different animals and crops to reduce the range of items grown by the individual farmer. At a still higher level, the actions of a group are synchronized, as in a dance or the laying of rails by hand. A more complex form is found on an assembly line, where the actions of men are synchronized, but in a serial way. Each man does part of the job. Cooperation is the maker of civilizations. Christianity is the creator or fashioner of cooperatives and a mechanism for the promotion of cooperation. Missions introduce the cooperative spirit to unbelievers, and ministry is about enhancing the cooperativity of believers. Being cooperative enhances our value, gives us merit, and over time generates equality. We cannot be equal and imperfect. The church fits us together to generate cooperativity. This focus on improving our cooperation enhances our level of specialization, as a homogeneous society cannot have a reason to cooperate. On the other hand, a diverse society is unable to cooperate and will ultimately be destroyed in competition. Consider, if you will, two divergent propositions. Civilization is built on cooperation. The institutions of the modern world foster competition and divergent thinking. We need faith in one another to cooperate, but our politics and economics divide us. Our business model turns us into classes of persons with competing objectives, further dividing us. Our immigration policy systematically seeks disparate groups with incompatible cultural mores and traditions and houses them side by side. Even our justice system prioritizes justice for the criminal and empathy for the accused. The victim is given no voice and forced to empathize with her assailant, pay for his defense and upkeep, and accept criminality as a viable way of life. Traditions are mocked and supplanted and turned into something akin to a depraved mindset, in that anyone promoting tradition over progressivism is deemed radical, racist, bigoted, and a promoter of hate. The legal system generally has stronger penalties for those who defend normality than those who practice anything that diverges from traditional styles of living. Indeed, if anyone opposes the rise in divergency and indeed deviancy, one is considered radical. We are required to cooperate with the things we have nothing in common with to be normal, as if there was something normal about this. Logic and our common sense tells us we need to cooperate. However, it is time to let you in on a secret. The problem that plagues this world is insanity. The world is insane. When we were ejected from Eden, where did we go? The move was not physical, it was spiritual. We lost sanity when we lost our place in Eden. Perhaps you were told that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again while getting the same result? This sums up the entire history of our race. You and your ancestors all thought you were fighting the system or some feature of it you opposed, when all that you are doing and all that your ancestors did perpetuates it. That is why it still exists and is getting stronger. This is why we were told not to oppose evil with evil. This system thrives on conflict. Diversity is its strength. The whole premise of its existence is false division that keeps everyone fighting for the wrong reasons and the wrong objectives. The more wars and conflicts it can create, the stronger the system gets. Some people want to promote a political party, others call for a revolution, murder, and more. It all builds this system. The system is parasitic. To all the conspiracy theories, your theory may be true or not. Which it is largely irrelevant, as with or without it, the history of the world would not be significantly different. The truth is, if there is a conspiracy, and if it is the one you favor, it is part of a world system that will continue on with or without your particular version of it. Not even the most diabolical conspiracy can hide the truth that lays behind it. Even the cleverest illusion must still point to the underlying truth. There must be a reality if there is to be an illusion, and there must be truth if something else is a lie. You probably think that it is still impossible to dig down to the ultimate sin, to the insanity that prompted all of the evil we see. But it is all very simple in fact. The question what you need to ask yourself is this. What do you do if the ultimate problem is your mind? What if the greatest evil in the world is the way you think? You have a way of thinking about this world. What if how you think about this world is wrong? What if your thoughts about this world makes you see problems that do not exist, and this way of looking at things makes you hate what you see and compels you to act, with words, violence, perhaps with war? What if it is all a lie, and the real problem was in what you saw and how you reacted to what you think you see? What if this entire system we call civilization was composed of controlled opposition? The wars, elections, and cultural divisions are diversions to keep us fighting about what does not matter. Regardless of how wins, the system remains. What if you and everyone else were being played, and the conspiracies you saw or thought you saw were nothing but illusions to hide the truth, because the rules we operate under makes it impossible for anyone but the system to win? Or let's put it this way. If you were not part of the problem and part of the illusion, do you not think you could have solved the problem by now? If you understand there are problems and they need fixing, who or what are creating these problems that they cannot be fixed? If A thinks B is the problem and B thinks A is the problem, would not one have convinced the other they were right by now, unless both are wrong and neither is right? Think about it, and take a real look at this game and your part in it. If you are fighting against one of the system's victims, and you are part of the problem, as those who fight you are also part of the problem. The system exists because it is you fighting against those who fight you. Without all of these ill-advised and useful conflicts, the system would not exist. Ultimately, the system is nothing more than people who fight those who ought to be cooperated with. There are only two possible options. We can fight or cooperate. If we cannot cooperate, fighting will not help. Cooperation is not submission, it is equal rights. It is a two-way street. For cooperation to work as it ought, there must be an accounting system. Cooperation is based on faith. Without trust, cooperation is not possible. Faith requires hard data. Faith does not last long unless it is substantiated. We might believe we will win the lottery, but unless we win when the numbers are called, the faith in our luck soon vanishes. A priori apologetic is a cooperative approach to faith. We prove our hope has a strong foundation by living in faith in a cooperative way. Faith is not something to exercise in private or individually. Faith must be exercised in a cooperative. A cooperative is a group of persons or citizens who have assumed dominion over a political jurisdiction. This can be as small as a few persons or as large as a nation, though international associations may also operate as cooperatives. It only requires 3 persons to form a cooperative, if they form around a unit of cooperation or unit of account. Cooperation does not last long if freeloaders become involved. These are the wolves in sheep's clothing. A term that illustrates the situation better for many is parasite. Parasites do not cooperate. They feed off of the cooperation of others, and over time, destroy faith. If you want the cooperative to flourish and faith to grow, one has to protect against parasites. Cooperation and parasitism are incompatible. Cooperation is the search for perfection. Madness is forming a group, and thinking sanity is found somewhere in the center or average. This apriotic thinking is found in the formation of juries and the reliance on democracy. One extreme form of apriosis is found in witchcraft. Primitive societies look for the source of their problems in the other. This mindset prevents them from ever considering their own faults. Primitive societies fail to cooperate in any meaningful way because the other always represents a risk to them. They never understand the level of risk they represent, nor do they ever do anything to limit the risk they pose to others. And so, in a primitive society, the people never achieve any real level of cooperation. What they have is toleration rather than cooperation. To cooperate, one must have an objective that is higher than what the individual is able to achieve. When cooperation becomes normalized, the community engages in specialization. It is at this stage that civilization is able to be developed. Apparently, Japanese school kids do not get any exams until grade 4. The first 2 years are spent teaching the child how to be a good citizen and acquire good manners. In one sense, they learn cooperation, which explains the orderliness of Japanese society. The 2 years of delayed education is paid for by a lifetime of living cooperatively and avoiding the chaos of the West. In Japan, the culture is given priority and something to aspire to. In Christianity, it is the faith that ought to be given precedence. Regardless, we need an image of perfection. In society, the man and the woman ought to have their ideal. The vision of the man and of the woman ought to have inspired children. But secular society has systematically eroded our hopes and our ideals. Secular society gives the child nothing to strive for, other than their own gratification. Ultimately, to live right, we need a vision of perfection. Apologetic is the study of the reasons for the hope that we have. It tells us the reasons we have to believe. The reason for the hope we have is the perfection of the hope we have. There is nothing to inspire us that is not perfect, or the inspiration is as weak as the hope is weak. The only objective that makes sense is perfection, and the only perfection is God. If you reject God and hold on to something greater than God, that thing you worship is God, even if that is you. But unless it is truly perfect, it is not God, and if it is truly God, it is perfect. Consider the imperfect idols you worship part of your journey towards the perfection of God. To be perfect is to be cooperative, and that requires us to be the equal of others, and to see others as the equal of us. The one exception is parasites. The goal of perfection is the struggle to remove all parasitic inclinations from us. We also need to remove the parasites from among us. Us is the individual and the community of which we are part. Removing the beam from our eye is first done to the individual us and later to the community we are part of. Each of us must pay our own way. This is what gives us our equality. It gives us community, and it is the path to cooperation. When there is cooperation, we have equality, and if we can achieve equality, we will have perfection. We are the perfect solution because we hold the key to cooperation in the way we choose to think.